Okay, shall we move on to the fourth unit, that is electrical drives. In the previous session from first unit, we have learned about what is meant by AC supply and DC supply, and in second unit we have studied about the machines, and in third unit we have discussed about the braking and starting and how we are controlling the torque of the machines. And let we move on to the fourth unit as a electrical drives. If it is a electric drives, that is nothing but it is a system employed for motion control are called as drives. It may employ any of prime movers such as diesel or petrol engines, gas or steam turbines. That means we can use the electrical where when we are connecting any mechanical component with a motor or a drive. If it is a engine, that means if it is a diesel drive motor, whatever it may, you will say it as a drives. If it is connected with a electric motor, then we will say it as a electric drives. So for supplying mechanical energy for motion control, that means if you want a rotation as a motion control, we will go for an electrical motor. When a rotation of a motor is coupled with an separate equipment, we will say it as an electric drives. That is, electric drives employing the electric motors are called as electric drives. What are the parts of electric drives? We can see in the block diagram, that is the source. From source we have the power modulators, then we have the motor, and the motor is connected with the load. At the motor outlet we will have the sensing unit. What we are sensing means we have to monitor the speed of the motor, and we have to control by using the control unit as shown in the block diagram. And we will have the input command, which that is the input command is given by us, that is how much speed the motor have to drive. We are continuously monitoring the speed of the motor by using the input command. So we will command the control unit to keep the motor at the moderate speed. So depends upon the input command, the power modulator will stimulate the power to the input of the motor, and so that we can monitor the speed by using the sensing unit, and we will control the speed of the motor. So in the description parts of the electric drive, if we are talking about the power modulator regulates the output power of the source. It controls the power from the source to the motor in such a manner that motor transmit the speed, torque characteristics required by the load. So if it is the power modulator, the main theme of the power modulator is to regulates the output power of the source, that is which will be the input power of the motor. The power modulator will be continued to the next slide, that is during the transient operation like starting, braking and speed reversing, the excessive current drawn from the source, so that that excessive current drawn from the source may be overload. So it may cause a voltage drop, and hence the power modulator restricts the source and the motor current. If it converts the energy according to the requirement of the motor. For example, if the source is DC and an induction motor is used, then power modulator converts DC into AC. It also selects the mode of operation of the motor for monitoring, that is for motoring or braking. For controlling unit, the controlling unit controls the speed. Power modulator, which operates at small voltage and power levels, the control unit also operates the power modulator as desired. It also generates the command for the protection of power modulator and the motor, and an input command which I have shown in the block diagram, that is the input command which was the signal given by us. So we have to adjust the operating point of the drive, and we will give the input to the control unit, so that depends upon the control unit outlet, the power modulator will regulates the power to the motor source. So if it is the sensing unit, it sends the certain drive parameters like motor current and speed. And not only speed, we can sense the motor current and voltage also. If you want to monitor the voltage, we can monitor the voltage by using the sensing unit. It mainly required either for protection or for closed loop. Advantage of electric drives. What are the advantage of electric drives? The electric drives are available in wide range of torque, speed and power. They are adaptable to almost any operating conditions such as explosive and radioactive environment, submerged in liquids, vertical mounting, and so on. The electric drive does not pollute the environment. That means we can say if it is a diesel drive machine, or if it is a petrol drive machine, or even though if it is a gas drive machine, everything have the will pollute the air due to the exhaust from the engine. That means if it is a diesel engine, you can see the bus, car, everything have the exhaust as a smoke, so it spoils the environment. But if it is the electric drive, there won't be any smoke. If just there will be a heat dissipated from the motor, and it can be transformed to the environment, depends upon the temperature. So there is no pollution due to electric drive when compared to the mechanical drives. What are the main uh, four quadrants of speed torque plant? They can be started instantly. That means we can drive immediately to the full load. If you are using the DC series motor, we can turn on the motor by coupling with the load itself. So there is no need of refuel or warm up the motor. You can drive just you can turn on the switch and you can drive the motor. If it is a diesel engine, we have to warm up the motor. So if you warm up the motor, we have the vacuum pressure, and depends upon that we have the torque. But if it's the electric drive, we no need to warm up, just we can turn on the switch and we can use it. That is the flexible control characteristics, and can be employed to the automatic control the drive. They are flexible control characteristics, and can be employed to automatically control the drive. That means because of the mechanical energy already available from a non-electrical prime movers. Sometimes there will be a first converted into electrical energy by a generator. That is, if you are having a diesel engine, and if you are coupling that with an alternator, you will have the electrical energy. Then you can give it to the electrical and motor, and we can use it. So that is the electrical link, thus provides between the non-electrical prime movers and the load impact of the drive flexible control characteristics. These are the advantages of electrical drives. Now we can go for an disadvantage of an electrical drives. That is, the power failure completely disable the whole of the system. The application of the drive is limited because it cannot use in a place where the power supply is not available, and it can use and it can cause noise pollution, especially if it is a mechanical drive or electrical drive, whatever drive. There may be a minute noise pollution if you are using an even though an induction motor, and even though if you are using an in the watch we are using a stepper motor. Even though whatever motor size it may be, there will be a noise. So if it is and the initial cost of the system is high. And what are the classification of electrical drives? There are three classifications, that is the group drive, individual drive, and multi-motor drive. If it is a group drive, that is if several group of mechanism or a machines are organized on one shaft and driven or actuated by the one motor, the system is called an group drive or shaft drive. What is the classification of electric drives? That is advantage, most economical. Disadvantage, any fault that occurs in the driving motor renders all the driving equipment ideal. Efficiency low because of losses occurring in the energy transmitting mechanisms, that is power loss. Not safe to operate. Also, noise level at the working spot is high. What is the individual drive? If a single motor is used to drive or actuate a driven mechanism, and it also does all the jobs connected with these loads, this drive is called individual drive. That means if it is a group drive, that is if it is a group drive, and there is a group of mechanism which is coupled with a single motor, that is a group drive. That in olden days we have that that mill in near to home, they will couple the three drives to the single motor, and they can use for crushing the rice, ragi, like that. So we can use that kind of drives. That is, there will be a one single motor, and it is used for multi-purpose for grinding in different mechanism. So that we can say it is a group drive. If it is an individual drive, that is if a single motor is used to drive or actuate a given mechanism, and it does all the jobs connected with this load, the drive is called individual drive. All the operations connected with the operating lathe may be performed by a single motor. Each motor is driven by its own separated motor with the help of gears, pulleys, etc. That means if you are using a lathe machine, for rotating we will use a single motor. For moving front and back we will use the separate motor. So that is the individual drive. But for example, if you are making a robot, so for shaking a hand we will have separate motor. For walking we will have separate motor. For rotating the heads we will have separate motor. So for each applications or for each specifications we have individual motor. So for the depends upon the applications where we are utilizing. So that's type of, we will say it as an individual drive. We will have the disadvantage, that is power loss occurs. If it is a multi-motor, that is each operation of the mechanism is taken care of by a separate driven motor. The system contains several individual drives, each of which is used to operate its own mechanism. For separate motors are provided for actuating different parts of driven mechanism. And if it is the advantages, each machine is driven by a separated motor. It can be run and stopped as a desired. Machines not required can be shut down and also replaced with a machine's minimum of dislocation. There is a flexibility in installation of different mechanisms. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of the motors. These are the advantages and disadvantages. If you have any doubts, we can put it in the chat box. Thank you.